Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today in the Dungeon Dive, we are going to take a quick look at Wail, a rules light solo tabletop RPG from Mark Cook, along with a little supplement called The Wailing Lands, or Mysteries of the Wailing Lands. Wail is available on itch.io, and I did buy a copy, but I actually bought this physical copy from Mark Cook's Etsy store. And there are physical copies of this still available if you are interested. So Wail is a pretty cool little game. It's half kind of hex crawl, mixed in with a little bit of prompt of creative writing. It's like a hex crawl journaling game. So I think the theme is highly inspired by recent From Software video games. It does feel thematically a little bit like something like Dark Souls or like Demon Souls or Elden Ring or something like that. But this is a pretty neat little game. So pulled into the Way Castle, you find yourself isolated, lost, and very alone. Travel these morphing lands, build the world around you, and explore to find treasure allies and battle terrifying monsters. Wail is a solo role-playing game where you build the world around you through your adventures. Rules light, simple gameplay systems focused on keywords and items to progress your journey. Hex-based navigation. Create a hex map that uncovers as you travel across the world. World-building tables. Craft regions, landmarks, and encounters using easy-to-use tables. And expand your world. Rules for inhabitants, beasts, artifacts, and adventure hooks all lie within. So we'll take a little look at the book, talk a little bit about the game, and then we'll do some sample turns so you can get an idea of what Wail is all about. So a little thematic backstory here. The Wailing Lands. The sun hangs in the sky, burning ring hollowed by darkness. You awaken in a dark and empty castle, alone and far away from the world you know. The darkness passes. The sun returns to its bright splendor, illuminating the world that fluctuates before you. These are the Wailing Lands, an ever-changing world of fantastic sights, lost travelers, and dark places hiding ancient secrets. Your home in these decaying lands is the Way Castle, a mysterious fort which attracts wayward souls. So in this game, it's kind of a fish out of water setup, maybe perhaps a sword and planet setup, where your character has been whisked away from the world that they know, thrown into a fantastic world, and your home base is this Way Castle. And as you are playing the game, you can find inhabitants like blacksmiths and clerics, and if you perform quests and tasks for them, they can move back to your Way Castle to become inhabitants of your castle, and then you can utilize their services. You can utilize their services. I don't know if you could utilize their services. Maybe the blacksmith, maybe somebody can make a table for you, a carpenter, and you can utilize his service. But anyway, so think of your Way Castle as kind of like your Firelink Shrine or your Nexus in Demon Souls, where some of the various NPCs you meet will go back and set up shop to where you can interact with them. The book walks you through the requirements, how to use this zine, and the core mechanism. So the core mechanism is pretty simple. It's a D6 dice pool system, and you're looking for 5s or 6s as successes. And you always roll 1d6 for all of your tests. And you really only test things when there's a chance for something bad to happen, for something negative to happen, or something dangerous to happen. And then you get to add an additional d6 or remove a d6 for each keyword you have that either helps or hinders. So for instance, if you were a swordsman and you were in a fight with a sword or a melee fight, you would roll 1d6. And because you had, let's say you had the keyword soldier, then you could have 2d6 and you're looking to attack somebody and you roll those 2d6. And I rolled a 3 and a 1 and you take the highest. So the highest here is a 3. A 3 is a minor success. You succeed, but something happens that was not planned. So it's a pretty simple little system, and you do need to come up with a lot of the challenges on your own. The book does not contain a lot of challenges, and so just know that going in, that this game does take a little bit of work to, I think, get the most out of it, but the things that it does provide are very interesting and super cool. The main danger that you're going to be facing, the way that you might lose the game, the way that your character might die, is by suffering from too many injuries. You can have a number of minor injuries. You could have up to 6 minor injuries and then 3 major injuries. And if you ever take a third or a fourth major injury, then your character has died. And minor injuries can be healed by clerics or by other items, but major injuries can only be healed by story events, by things that you might find within the various tables of this book. So I guess one of the main ways that the game ends is your character dying. I don't think there is an overall goal, an overall objective for a winning objective. The main objective is just to explore the land and put together a cool story and find out the lore and explore the various points of interest in the regions that you will be rolling up. So character creation is pretty simple. There are no stats in this game. You just create a character basically by creating a character history, by answering a few questions. And you get 1 keyword or 1 item for each one of these questions. And those questions are: what has been your character's profession in life? What did they do before they were whisked away? What is a skill that they excel in? What is the greatest feat they have accomplished? What were they doing immediately before being pulled to the Way Castle, and what has been their greatest failure? So let's take a look at my character here. My character's name is Jamon Preston, and let's see, what was their profession before in life? I was a hunter or a ranger. A skill, I was very good at scavenging. A feat that I had accomplished, I did discover a safe location for the settlement in which I live and have started building with other people. What was I doing immediately before being pulled into this Way Castle? I was exploring a strange cave. And what is my greatest failure? I would say that I am solitary. I am untrusting of other people. I have a hard time trusting others. And so for my 5 keywords, I chose to give myself all keywords. I was whisked away to the Way Castle. I was spirited away, and I woke up in the Way Castle with no possessions, just the leather armor on my back. But my keywords are a hunter, a scavenger, a surveyor, a spelunker, and suspicious. So those are my 5 different keywords. So any kind of character progression is handled by earning more keywords or by gaining items. And those items, again, can add to your dice rolls, but those items will have durability, and as they get worn out, they will have to be repaired by a blacksmith. But a lot of the keyword system and a lot of the items system, you will have to bring in. It does give you some examples, but there aren't concrete mechanisms defining items and defining those keywords. The second part of setup is defining your map, is the initial layout of your map. And the first thing you'll do is you will drop a D6 on your hex map, and that is where your Way Castle will be. So my Way Castle is right here in this hex there. And then you will roll up a region, and my Way Castle is in a 2 hex size swamp. And so one of the things that you do is you create in creating your Way Castle is you answer a few questions. What is your first view upon awakening? What does your Way Castle look like? And what strange features make this Way Castle unique? So the first view, I woke up here near the main entrance, and I looked out and saw this gray kind of nasty, desolated swamp area, and it wasn't very inviting. What does my Way Castle look like? It's pretty dilapidated, crumbling walls, holes in the ceiling, old moldy furniture, so it needs a lot of work. And a strange feature, a defining feature, that there is a huge fire burning in a giant fireplace in the center of this entrance area. And it gives off a very peaceful warmth and a feeling of safety. And so I figured that fire could be an attraction for other people who are wandering this desolate land. And so after you have defined your castle, then you're also going to take a handful of D6, anywhere between 3 and 6. I chose 5, and you'll drop those on the map to generate some points of interest. And so to the south here, north is up. To the south, I dropped a die, and I have a village. and then another village. There's a campsite, a city, and a temple. And so those are some initial points of interest on my map that could entice me to having adventures in those directions or those locations. And so that's basically it for setup, and then the game starts. And the game itself is very simple. You move from one hex to the next, exploring as you go, and then you roll up what you find in the hex and how large that is. For one of my initial explorations here, I moved out from my Way Castle. I knew there was some kind of village. Maybe I had a map in the Way Castle. Maybe there was a large map that people had started drawing. And so that's how I kind of knew a little bit of the general layout of this land. But I headed out, and the first thing I came across was this 2-hex lake. So this lake is pretty large. And in that lake, I noticed something shining just underneath the surface in the center of the lake in this hex here. However, there was also a bridge that was spanning the east side and the west side, the east and west shores. And on that bridge were 2 warriors fighting it out. And I did want to go back real quick because in this little supplement here, the Mysteries of the Wailing Lands, this is a little expansion, a little supplement that you can add to your game of Wail. And it has a few little artifacts. It comes with some instructions or some rules on how to incorporate factions. So anytime you come across a civilization, that you can figure out what faction they are from. But it also has some truths, and these truths will help you define your world. And so when you start a new game, you roll up a D8 for one of the truths. And the truth that I rolled was number 4. Death has no hold on mankind. Graves lay empty as humanity spreads across the world, an undying race destined to curse all in their path. And so that kind of gives me an idea of how to govern my world. And so on this bridge here by this lake, there are these 2 warriors who perpetually fight. And it is the warrior of the eastern shore versus the warrior of the western shore. And they are locked in perpetual battle. Every day, the one who dies comes back to life, and they meet in the center of this bridge and they fight to see who is going to win for that day. Now, one thing that I need to do is I need to get to the center of that bridge in order to fish out some very shiny item that I see just underneath the surface. So that's one thing that I need to figure out how I'm going to do. Am I going to appeal to the warrior of the east or the warrior of the west to try to get to that bridge so I can fish that out? However, to fish that item out, I do need to get some fishing gear. And so that is one of the main reasons why I am heading south to this village. And so my character is in this northern hex here at the lake, and he is walking along the eastern shore of this lake, making his way down to the village. And so the first thing I would do is I'm going to move into this hex here. So I will roll a D12 to see what that hex is, and then I will also roll a D6 to see the size of that region. Okay, here. So we have a 5 and a 2. So a 2 is a small, so this is a single hex region. And our 5 here on the region is another swamp. So this swamp has that is around my Way Castle continues down into this region here. So I'm just going to write swamp here. You could draw your swamp or you could color it. I'm just writing what each hex is. So this swamp is in this area here. So the swamp is surrounding this lake. I do really like that thematically, how there's a swamp next to a lake. This is obviously a wetlands area. And I would say that this village is probably in the wetlands. Maybe they grow some kind of rice or something, or they have little skiffs that they travel along the swamp and go into the lake or something like that. So after you've come up with your region and you're traveling, now you want to roll up one of your travel events. What happens to you while you are traveling? So for that, we will roll another D12 and a 2. A foreign object blocks your path. Okay, so I actually can't move down into this swamp. There is something here on the eastern shore that has prevented me from from moving over into that swamp. So I'm going to have to continue to move down here into this region here. So I'm going to put some kind of X here. I'm not sure what that is. Let's see. Let's say that this is just a huge fallen tree blocks my path into the swamp in this region from this direction here. So I'll put point number 2 here. It's a huge fallen tree. And this tree is like giant, and maybe it's petrified. Maybe it's like a petrified giant redwood tree or something from the sequoias. It's that size. And so it takes me quite a long time to walk around it. Now, because this region here has already been established as part of the lake, I'm going to roll up on the revisit, because I already know what this is. So let's roll up on a D6 on this table here, and we have a 2. You find an old pack, discarded or lost, something remains inside. Okay, so I find a pack here, maybe an old backpack, and what do I find? Well, in the back here, we have a whole bunch of different additional tables. We have D12 tables for looting, durability, different relics and keywords, equipment, item, artifacts, weather, theme, population, mood, settlement features. And then we also have different ways to roll up NPCs, different kinds of characters, foes, beasts, what their role is. And we also have this plot starter. And I'm thinking about using this when I get down into the village. I will talk to the village elder, tell him that I need some gear, some survival gear to help myself fish and hunt and all of that. And then that village elder will send me off on some kind of quest. There is also a table that you can roll up if you're ever having trouble coming up with adventure hooks. You can also roll up on this D12 table here for some established adventures. But let's say, so in that pack, let's say we're going to do we'll do on this looting table here, and it's a large pack, so we're going to roll a D12. What do I find? That is a 6. A 6, 2 worn equipment. Okay, so the equipment, what do I find? That's a 2 D12s. I find 10 and 5. So I find a helmet and a shield. Okay, so I have some gear now. So now I can go ahead and write helmet and what was that? Helmet and shield. Yes, helmet and shield in my inventory. So I am wearing a helmet and I also have a shield. And these were worn. So these only have 1 point of durability each. So when I decide to use those to add to my D6 dice pool, I will have to check off that durability. And so each one of those can only be used 1 time. So that's how items work in this game here. Okay, so now we are in this swamp or this lake region here. I know that the next hex is a village. So I'm just going to roll up to see what region this village is in here, and that is a 2. Okay, so we'll go back to the region here, and so a mountain. So that doesn't really make sense for a mountain to be right next to a swamp or the lake. So I'm just going to say that this is maybe some moors. That sounds right. So the village is in the moors here. So we have some kind of like very gently rolling hills here that leads down into this lake and then into this swampy region. And this is a lakeside village. And so they are used to being in this kind of wetland. And now let's roll up a little bit about this settlement here. The first thing we'll do is we will call this number 3 here. And then I'll go over here for number 3. And we will come up with a village name. And for that, I will turn to my handy dandy Table Fables 2 from Madeline Hale here, and we have our town generator. So this little village is called 6. It's called Colony Bay. Hey, that works out right. Okay, so Colony Bay. Okay, let's see what a settlement feature is here. And 5. It's a den of thieves. Okay, so a den of thieves. So this is maybe some kind of like bandit village or something. What is the mood at this village here? 5. Jolly. So they're happy thieves. Maybe these are kind of like maybe these thieves, these bandits are more like Robin Hood style bandits. They're thieves with hearts of gold or something like that. All right. And then we could also roll up for the weather today, or let's see what the population. And this is a quiet little lakeside village that has some jolly thieves living in it. Maybe they've just come back from a good pillaging run, and they have some good food that they are eating, and they're going to distribute that food to some needy people. So they rob from the rich and then give to the poor. But I approach the elder, maybe the head thief there, the headmaster of that thief guild, and I want to try to talk to him to get some gear because I need a fishing pole, I need maybe a bow, I just need some general gear and see if they have any work that I could do in exchange for that. So let's first roll up on our look, trait, and attitude of this thief, this headmaster. We'll call him Headmaster Collins. We'll say there, and he is the head. He is in charge of this thieves guild. And how does he look? He's towering. Okay, and what's his main trait? Is bronzed. So he likes being outside a lot in this blazing sun here. And he also is sorrowful. Maybe living next to a swamp, maybe that causes him to go into maybe suffers from some depression or something every once in a while if things aren't going well. So I talked to him. I talked to Headmaster Collins, and I asked him if there's anything I can do in exchange for some gear because I was whisked away into this strange world, and perhaps he knows about the Way Castle, and says something like, "Oh yes, so you are the most recent inhabitant of the Way Castle. Good luck. I hope that what happened to the last inhabitant of the Way Castle doesn't happen to you." And he won't go any further into that right now. But he says that, yes, I do have a job for you. If you can do this thing for me, I can supply you with some basic gear so you can take care of yourself. Because here at the Colony Bay, we are all about arming people so they can take care of themselves. That's what they like to do. They like to make people self-sufficient so they can be left alone. And so we'll go to our plot starter here and let's see what kind of mission, what kind of quest, what kind of job we can do for Headmaster Collins here. One, there's a dying man. Maybe that's why he is sorrowful. Maybe he knows an old friend of his is dying. So let's draw a line here. Headmaster Collins, an old friend, is dying. And he's probably going to need some help here. So an old friend is dying. What's the theme of this quest, of this job here? A 6 here. There's a ritual. So there's some kind of ritual that we need to perform in the underground around the event of... So somebody has arrived too late. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so I'm going to say that there is some kind of ritual that I need to find. There are these witches who are performing a ritual in an underground layer. And I'm arriving too late to stop it. So maybe these witches are actually cursing his friend and that's why they are dying. And so I'm going to arrive maybe too late to stop it, but then I might be able to figure out how I can reverse that ritual in order to help his dying friend. Now let's do one thing here. Let's see, let's roll up a random location from the Moors village, a random direction. So 1 through a 6. We're going to add 3 to that. So that's going to be, actually that was the direction. So a 1, so in this direction here. And now let's add 3 to this to figure out how far away this is. 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so we will have this location here is actually the underground layer of the witches. And so we need to get up here in order to find them and in order to stop them from performing this ritual and save the headmaster Colin's old dying friend. And then we can return back to that village in order to get the gear that we need. So yeah, this was all generated from this one book here. I think it does a pretty good job of defining some interesting elements for creating a really fun, cool hex crawl. We have different D12 charts to roll up minor landmarks. So here we have all of our travel events, and then we also have encounters. I guess I probably should have rolled up an encounter as I moved into the village. Maybe not. I would say when you move into a village, you don't have an encounter. You have a story encounter with somebody in that village. But we do have a D12 encounter chart here. We have our chart for our minor landmarks that we can find, our major landmarks, a whole bunch of random items that we can find, some various inhabitants. So these are the main NPCs, the main inhabitants that you will find that you can send back to the Way Castle. So you can find a blacksmith, a cleric, an enchanter, an explorer, a knight, and a thief. And then over here, when you roll up which inhabitant you have found, that also tells you what you need to do in order to get them to go back to your Way Castle. And here we have some various beasts, and we've already looked at that adventure table there, and then all of the various charts that you can roll on to generate all of the things you need to. So yeah, this is a pretty cool little game. I think it strikes a interesting balance between being a journal game and a hex crawl game with specific types of encounters. So it's not all just journaling, and it's all not just random encounter hex crawl. It's a good combination of the two. I think it does offer enough to where you could have a prolonged entertaining time just using this book, and also using the Little Wailing Lands supplement that gives you a few more things on what you can discover. You can actually go into the void that whisked you away into this world. And then you can always supplement any of these things with some things you already have, like your Table Fables 2. I was thinking about maybe incorporating some things from Procedures to Discover the Path Ahead by Seedling Games. This is a fantastic book all about overland crawls. I love this little zine here, but I got this on itch.io as well. But yeah, it's only $5, and for $5, yeah, you get a lot of game for $5. You will need to print out your Way Castle map. You will need to print out your character sheet and your hex crawl, and probably something else to write your different adventures on, because you will very quickly fill up this space here on the side. But I am excited to see what else is in store for me as I explore, as I head up now north into this region here to go into this underground layer. Maybe when I go into the underground layer, well, I think one thing missing is any kind of generators for dungeons, for caves, for that kind of thing. But I might turn to this supplement here called Weird Dungeon from Jeffrey N. Baker. And this is all about creating dungeons. So maybe I'll create a little dungeon using this book to represent the underground layer of the witches, to try to stop their ritual from harming Headmaster Colin's friend. So, all right, you guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this look at Wail. I will put a link to the itch.io page, and then you can either get the PDF, or the itch.io also has a link to Mark Cook's Etsy shop where you can also get the physical edition. So take it easy, guys. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.